I believe at least 3. Like I said, we've got, of the people who are vaccinated, so far there's like 25% of those of the district that wants to be vaccinated at least with their first. And 3 of those that work remotely have gotten there. They are really looking forward to coming back. That's what I hear from them is, 2 weeks after they get their second vaccine, they plan on being back in the classroom.
Okay,
So,
okay, that's really my question.
That's what I'm hearing from the ones that have already been vaccinated.
And just from a medical standpoint, if we're going back to 5 days, if we would go back to 5 days a week and encourage even more students to come back, we're really getting further away from our original goal of social distancing.
Right.
And so is that a concern anymore?
The option, so the people who are in the classes 4 days will be in there 5 days. So I don't think it's anything to do with social distancing or masking, as long as we provide them with the proper techniques of wearing the mask, proper frequent encouragement to wash their hands and to social distance, and kids will be kids, so you need to keep repeating those instructions.
But I think they're doing that pretty well.
And we have done a tremendous job over the past year. This is, compared to other school districts, we started out with in-person, even though we didn't want to do the 5 days, and we did because we were also trying to provide the opportunity. This was all an unknown. Hindsight is 2020, but given what we knew in last summer when we decided to go with the current options of 4 days in person and 1 day of remote learning, we thought it would give us an opportunity in case things got worse that we were prepared for the remote learning opportunity. So right now, if we keep the number of students the way they are, and if we can continue with the measures that our staff have done, I'm thinking the 5 days would be about the same as what we are doing with the other 4 days.
And the staff know that Friday we didn't see it as a benefit to students as much as to staff, to help them from feeling that intense pressure. So I'm happy to hear you ask for their input, and I'll bring that back.
Absolutely, because this is a balance. You need to have input from all the stakeholders. It's not just what I want or what Andy or Danny wants. It's what can the teachers do, because you could bring the students back, but then you have teachers burning out and not performing to the best of their abilities. It's the students who suffer again.
And that survey for families, there was strong indication, yep, we're ready for 5 days a week in the fall. And I haven't had anyone contact me about this year, but we'll put it out there and I'll have those results next time.
If we decided at the next meeting to go to 5 days for fourth quarter, is that a little short notice?
It is.
Well,
So,
actually, our meeting will be after the fourth quarter starts.
the meeting is during spring break,
23rd is
the
the next
23rd.
meeting.
No, it's not
No,
spring
I thought we
break.
were on the
No, the
30th.
week after is spring break,
Week after spring break. Thank you, Mary Kay.
the 23rd.
What's the first week in April?
20, it's the 23rd,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, 2 weeks from today will be the 23rd,
And,
our next meeting.
and the week after is
It's
fourth
spring
quarter.
break.
Okay.
Oh, so we have about a week, so. Darlene?
4 days.
I just want to advocate for the staff. The only issue I have, I heard you were talking about bringing all the kids back or bringing, opening it up. At this point, I will tell you, a lot of our staff have not been vaccinated that want to be vaccinated. If we open up in 2 weeks, I think the Friday, if that's what they decide, will be okay, but if we decide to bring more students back in, I think you're gonna see the stress level on the teachers go up because they are not going to be vaccinated, fully vaccinated. I think once we get the vaccines in and those that want to be vaccinated are vaccinated, you will see the stress level just go down. The ones that have already received the vaccine, you can already tell that they are less stressed. So I just want to advocate for the teaching staff and the stress level. I think once they're completely vaccinated, it'll be a totally different picture for everybody at that point.
And that will be,
In about a month.
But
I
that-
mean, that brings back another issue then. If you look at the State Department of Health Services, they received 48,000 doses of the Johnson & Johnson. And that is exclusively for the use of teachers K through 12 and those in childcare. Have we reached out to our public health department to say, why are we not receiving it? Are there more than 48,000 teachers in this state? So who's getting those? Would that be a question that we can ask our public health officials to reach out to the state and say, we'd like to question this? Why are we not getting a share of those 48,000 doses?
Well, to be honest, and I'm just gonna share it here, what I can tell you is that Amigo has been allotted 150 doses of Pfizer and Pfizer. We just are waiting to find out that if we're going to get the full allocation next week, or if we're going to just get a partial. We're just waiting for the confirmation. That
Are
in
you
itself
talking about the
will get
Pfizer or
approved
the
of-
Johnson & Johnson?
Yeah, we're not getting Johnson & Johnson. They've already let the public health know that we're getting Pfizer for our teachers. The state had said this was allocated to the educators of our district. So we're getting the Pfizer.
so that's
I'm not-
really,
Have you heard, Dr. Deep, is anybody getting the Johnson & Johnson? 'Cause
Yes.
None of the vaccinators
Locally,
in town
but
that I'm aware of have gotten it.
But I think that would be a question, I will reach out to the DHS and find out, because to me, that doesn't make sense, because if you are giving 48,000 doses and it's only a one shot per person, that's 48,000 individuals, and this is exclusively for the use of the educators, nobody else. So I can't use it for any of my older patients or those with other comorbidities, but anybody who's teaching, if they come in and we can give it to them, why is Antigo or the Northwoods not getting it? This
All I
might-
can say is, the last I heard, there's like 700,000 educators in Wisconsin, and if there's only 48,000 doses of Johnson & Johnson coming in, that's all I can tell you, is that those are the stats that I've heard and I've read. So I don't know if they just feel, they've been doing really well with what we've had, so that's why they're just keeping up with the Moderna and the Pfizer up here, I don't know. But those are the numbers that I've heard, so I don't know, I can't answer that. But
Yeah, with the
this is-
Pfizer and Moderna, you're looking at 4 to 6 weeks at the minimum before you have enough people vaccinated. The first dose, the first round with the Pfizer, you're still looking at 3 weeks out for the second one, and then 2 weeks after that, so it's a good 6 weeks.
so that's towards the end of April, by
Right,
the time the
right.
6 weeks are up.
Yeah, whereas with the Johnson & Johnson, they were starting out on the week of the 15th, so if we had our teachers vaccinated that week, you'd be,
The
by the
29th,
by the 30th, you
When I
would be.
Googled that, I get, in 2013, there was 57,551 teachers in Wisconsin.
We heard the 700, but I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I know maybe they're not including support staff or
That's
something.
probably just the teachers.
What number was that you had there, JD? I missed?
57,551.
Yeah, and DHS said there were 700,000 last week Friday when I listened to the webinar. And that at that point, they were hoping that Johnson & Johnson was going to be just solely for the educators. But when I when I talked to public health last Friday, they called me actually at 5:30 to let me know that we are getting 150 doses and we are getting the Pfizer. They're just waiting, like I said, for the final. But at this point, we have, did I say 57? I think I shared with you, Julie, 57 staff members who are already, had received one or both. We've got, I believe, 20, about half of those that got their second doses, or they're about to get their second, and then we've got a number of them ready to get their second doses next week already. So those 21 days actually do go fast, and it will only be 21 days from the first to the second dose because of Pfizer.
But it's still the 2 weeks after that, which still puts you out to,
Yeah, it's 2 weeks exactly, you're right.
So it's almost end of April, which is,
While those 21 days go fast, Arlene, from personal experience, the 14 days go slow.
yes.
You're right. And just for you, I totally understand that.
So you're gonna do the survey, maybe we'll find out some more about vaccines in the next 2 weeks, and then we'll have this discussion again at
Okay.
the next meeting. Okay, anything else on COVID before we move on? Okay, we'll go on to new business and the budget update.
Andy, tonight I just want to talk about two different aspects of the budget. One is what I'm seeing from how the budget is likely to close out this year. And then as I'm working on the next year's budget, last time I talked to you about no additional money in the budget, and I want to look at the governor's proposal. So looking at what I'm seeing with how the budget's likely to close out this year, essentially, almost on every aspect, we're seeing expenditures lag behind prior history. And, most of that's associated with COVID. And I want to focus on just a couple of things that I've seen. And first of all, our teachers and our principals are focused on, obviously keeping our students and staff safe and keeping our buildings running. And they aren't necessarily having opportunities to be looking at budgeting and planning specifically for how they're spending their year-end funds. Typically, we have staff going to professional development conferences, travel expenses. Those are lagging well behind because we're just not doing any of that this year in person. With the CARES Act, it's been my priority that when we have eligible costs that qualify for federal funds, we expend those federal funds. We've been told by DPI there should be an emphasis on spending those federal dollars. It shows the legislature that we're pleased to have that money available and we're going to use it. So that's what we've done. And specifically in areas that I'm seeing some significant difference from prior years would be things like, one, subbing costs. If we have staff that are out because of COVID-related, anything to do with COVID, we are coding those subbing costs associated with filling those vacancies to the federal grant. Right now, I'm anticipating that our subbing costs alone will be about $100,000 at least in savings over the prior year because we've allocated a lot of those expenditures towards the federal money. In the same way, we're using federal dollars where we can for supporting our staff. So if we can code somebody to a federal grant through CARES Act, we're going to do that. And in the salary budget with both benefits, salaries and benefits, I'm anticipating that we're going to finish the year somewhere between $100,000 and $140,000 under budget. Other areas, and I talked a little bit about principals, working on keeping their buildings operating. We're seeing less requests for capital expenditures, capital equipment, that kind of thing. And we've also targeted using the CARES Act money to pay for things like we talked about Canvas earlier, remote learning, all the technology we've used the money for. So that is not being spent out of the general fund. I'm anticipating that through the capital, lack of capital requests, we're going to end up with about $150,000 additional of underspent funds again in capital equipment. The other thing that we've been very, very fortunate this year is we've had a really mild winter. And when you think about that, we have three areas that really impacts. It's our snow removal, it's our gas, and our electricity. And between those three accounts, if the weather pattern trends to be moderate, we're likely to have $100,000 savings in those three areas combined. So those are just 3, 4, 5 examples of how we will probably underspend this year by at least $450,000 to $500,000. In future committee of the whole meetings, I'm gonna emphasize where I think those dollars should go, and the two categories where we can put them is in our Fund 73 trust, our OPEB liability. We're gonna touch a little bit on that tonight. And also, look at our long-range capital, maintenance plan. And Jake is gonna touch on that topic tonight. So, any questions about how I'm seeing the budget year end up?
Last year, we ended up with $800,000 over, and we were dinged on that from state aid. So if we're gonna put $450,000, $500,000 in savings again, are we gonna be in trouble come next fall?
I'm recommending, Danny, that we look at, we wanna be able to, manage our tax levy. That's very important. And I'm suggesting those two areas that I'm proposing would be areas where we claim aids when we put the money in. We can't claim aids when we take the money out. So it would be, it would have a positive impact on the,
So you put the money into Fund 73, and it will not affect us in the fall for state
we
aid?
get aided on that.
No, answer my question. It will not affect us. It won't negatively affect us in the fall from the state aid.
And the answer to the question
Yes or
is
no?
we will be aided on the expenditure. So it is beneficial from an aid standpoint to either put it in Fund 73 or Fund 46.
So is it the same as spending it any other way?
It's the same.
Right, like if we bought books or something, it gets aided the same way.
Correct. We don't get aided at the time the expenditure comes out. Okay, so I included in your packet BPI's copy of their budget analysis for the governor's proposal. And that's a lengthy document. What I'd like to have you do is just open it up and there's just a couple things I want to have you look at. So I want you to go first to page 6 or slide number 12. So what's important, the message I want to get across is last month I talked to you a little bit about adding no money to the budget. And if we do that, because of declining enrollment, next year we're going to have a shortfall of about $250,000. And then in the subsequent 2 years, it's over $900,000 in each year. In the governor's proposal on this page, he's talking about under specifically because we're a declining enrollment district and a low spending district, I want you to look at the low revenue ceiling. And the governor's proposal is talking about adding $250,000 in each year of the biennial budget. So without getting into the mix, next year, if he would do this doesn't really affect our budget all that much next year. Because we have a whole lot harmless provision because of declining enrollment. But the big point is, in year 2 of the biennial budget, and then the subsequent year, 3 years down the road, it halves our deficit in both years. So what's important as a board member when you talk to your legislators is to emphasize that if we can build the base and get it in the revenue limit formula, from my perspective, that's much better than having them give it to categorical aids, per pupil categorical aid. We want to build the base because that stays with us for the subsequent years. So that's the message we have to get to our legislators. Regardless of whether it's 250 or whatever number, having more in the revenue limit, in my opinion, is better for everybody.
The potato lobbyists told us they thought the governor's budget would be dead on arrival and the Republicans would essentially write their own. Did you get any feel from WASB what the Republicans might propose in that? Do you think they're more likely to go categorical, or that's where we gotta go talk?
And JD, I'm hearing sort of the same thing, and so when I'm dealing with WASB, the business managers, some of them are very optimistic and they're hopeful that they'll see 150. Some of them are saying there's going to be nothing. It's across the board. My point tonight is, you know, as we look at the budget with Forecast 5, I can do those scenarios, and I can see the impact. The other item I wanted to talk to you about is the categorical aid for special education. You know, under the governor's proposal, so this is going to be on page 9, slide 14. Last year, we were funded, this year, we are reimbursed on our prior year spending for categorical aid at 28%. The governor's talking about his proposal, increasing that categorical aid 45% the first year of the biennial budget and 50% the second year. If that gets passed, that adds $600,000 in categorical aid for Antigo. And as a board, you have to remember that that means that through our Fund 10, our general fund, we're supporting special education. Well, that reduces the expenditure that we are required to make to balance the special education budget, so that categorical aid frees up money from the general fund to, for all students. Now, there may be some LOE complications, and that's something that Heidi and I have to worry about, but it's just something to point out. So that increase, whatever amount we get in that categorical aid, is a big deal.
So these would be two items that you'd like stressed when our state
When you're
assemblyman
meeting with
comes.
legislators, when you're talking to them, those are, to me, when I look at this budget document, those are the two big items for us. Other districts might have other concerns, but for us, those are very helpful, two big points. Okay, then just a couple of real quick notes, what I'm working on right now. So I've basically looked at our certified teaching staff and what it's gonna cost us to enroll all teachers on the current salary budget. And if we do that, that's $265,000. CPI for contracts beginning in July 1, which is a measure of essentially districts that still have union and master agreements. But it's a measure which we often will reflect increases in our salary projections. Is going to, I'm sorry? It's going to be 1.21%, and if we add, that's equivalent at $40,000 to add $500 to the base. If we add that $500 to the base for all teachers, that would be an additional $100,000 increase. I haven't run the numbers yet for support staff. Other things that we're looking at right now is we're getting into the very early stages of renewing our insurance benefits. And as you're aware, we have a new insurance consultant at R&R, and they are looking at that, looking at ways to help save us money. But we're running about between 110 and 115% of our premiums in expenses out to claims. So that will be difficult. We're also, March 15th is approaching, and we're getting some interest in staff retirements, so those are kind of trickling in. I'm anticipating that we'll see, when we compare the salary of someone that's on the upper end of the salary schedule to a new first-year teacher, we're looking at a $20,000 to $25,000 savings or reduction in salary costs. So there's a lot going on right now, and I'll keep you updated as things develop.
Okay. Questions for Tim? Then we'll go on to item B, retirement HRA district contributions.
Okay, so at the March board meeting, I'm going to ask for you to approve distribution into the retiree teacher HRA. And there are a couple things I want to highlight tonight. So each year we budget somewhere between $110,000 and about $110,000, $120,000 for that contribution. We have 84 teachers who are eligible this year. So that's less than half of our staff are eligible. And we budgeted $120,000 for, in this year's budget for that contribution. So we have it budgeted. If you look at the first document in there, the HRA plan updated for January 27, 15. If you look at that, what I want you to do is go down towards the bottom end of the document. And highlighted is the prorated amount. So when this was adopted and implemented, we gave teachers at that time with 25 years' experience, $910 into this account. And as you go down the list, you can see 24 to 20 years, we gave $682. 19 to 15 got $455 per year. If you had 14 years to 10 years, you got a flat $1,000. And why I bring this to your attention is, let's add 7, 8 years onto the plan. And if you add 8 years onto the 14, you're at 22 years of service. And now these staff members have probably around $7,500 to $8,500 in their account. The intention of the plan was to allow teachers to possibly early retire if they've done some financial planning, and allow them to stay on our health insurance for 18 months. A family plan for 18 months is over $30,000. So it'll be difficult for our teachers in that age group to do that. So I draw that to your attention because we have 84 teachers eligible. That's, if we do $1,000, that leaves us a little bit of money to possibly make an adjustment if the board thinks that that might be something I should look at. I think it's important that we be equitable, because teachers that are in that 24 and up bracket are getting close to having $25,000 to $30,000 in their accounts for when they retire. The next age group, not so much. So when I talk about the end of the year budget plan, there's also, this is in Fund 73. And again, that's an area where we can put additional money to make either some adjustment here. We can also use that, because we're gonna be short next year, to possibly prepay, so to speak, next year's contribution level. And we can just then distribute the money that's already into the account to those that are eligible. And then finally, the other consideration is, this contribution is made in the 6th year of your employment. And that's in the other document that highlights the plan design. So before we even give it to teachers, they have to be here 6 years. And I mentioned this before, I just think it's something that we should be looking at. If a teacher leaves prior to retirement, that money's forfeited and given back to the district account. So that's basically all I have.
Okay.
Why don't we give it to them in the first 5 years? Would that help get them to stay?
You know, I can't answer that. I think, JD, there's that balance between, once you're here and you're locked in, you've established yourself in the district, versus teachers really looking at that point in their career as salary. There's that balance. I don't know.
They're not at that point yet.
I just keep thinking about that 17 to 22 year group. They have been with us. It would be nice if we could do something there to make it more equitable.
How much money were you thinking?
I can put something together, but I think the other point is, I want to talk about that next month, OPEB, the actual post-employment liability for health insurance. And that is dropping at a really quick rate, but I want to show that program to you next month. And possibly combine these two and look at our end of year and probably do some prepaid on that, so we're not strapped to the future.
That liability will run out pretty soon, relatively soon, number of years.
Yes, I mean, the action the board took last year to eliminate that benefit for the administrators, that will definitely run out. But it's still, I mean, for a couple of them, it's gonna be there for the long.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions on that?
If they go take a different, if they retire from Anigo to go to a different district after they've been here for 20 years, do they get that money?
So when you look at the plan design, they retire from Anigo and they qualify as a WRS annuitant.
So yes, they get the money that they.
Yeah.
They could.
The part that I don't understand is you're asking me if there could be terms where they could work part-time for
No.
another school district?
No, let's say I retired, and I was retired for a couple of years, and then I decided to go back.
Yeah, you'd have the money.
The money would be mine. Okay.
I failed to mention one more thing that's really important.
Web content.
The other two documents that are in there, and I'm sorry I didn't bring this up. One is, we currently have a premium-only HRA. So it can only be used for health insurance premiums. And there's a list in there that I've included that show what the eligible list can be. We can, because our administrators are not on this plan, we can broaden the plan and include eligible expenses and still qualify under the IRS rulings. And as part of the motion in March, I'd like you, I provided you two documents showing you the difference, or showing you additional items. I'd like to be able to move that we expand that and allow the more eligible expenses to make it a broader benefit. So over-the-counter medications, all those kinds of things would qualify for expenses that they can use these funds for. And as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't cost us anything to do that, and it just would be much more beneficial to some of our staff members.
Okay. If that's all, we will go on to item C, capital project discussion.
Okay, so as Tim kind of mentioned, with the capital projects in general, the district, next month I'm gonna bring a full 5-10-year maintenance plan, what that looks like. One thing that I just want to highlight with that is, there's a lot of needs that we have, and prioritizing that, you can get fairly close, but sometimes things happen for the better or for the worse. One of the items, well, a couple of items on here tonight, the asbestos flooring. We've had that since 1960. Well, all of a sudden, for whatever reason, the conditions are right, the glue wears out, and we start popping tiles. That obviously is going to push that towards the top of the priority list. But until that happens, we monitor multiple times a year through an asbestos specialty company, and they tell us that they're okay how they are. So that'll show up on the list, but sometimes the priorities change. Another one of those things is the track that we're going to talk about tonight. And same thing, you have life expectancies of things, and you try to adhere to that, but at the same time, you don't want to do it prematurely and then, essentially waste money doing that. So from year to year, those are gonna bounce a little bit, but basically on the capital improvement project that I'm gonna bring next year, or next month, that's just kind of gonna be a laundry list of everything, and I'll try to put some priority to it, but those are gonna change from year to year, so I just want you to kind of understand that when I look at these projects, some are not as big of a priority this year, and then all of a sudden next year it might jump up, okay? An example of that for the better is the elevator in the 2-story here at the middle school. The life expectancy for that drive unit is 20 to 25 years, is what the manufacturers tell us. Every year we have to have it tested. It's always performed well, it's always good. Well, they're trying to get me to spend $34,000 to replace it right now because it's 37 years old. So they're saying it's way past the life expectancy, just go ahead and replace it. Well, I think that would be a poor spend of money. So, that being said, it could go up tomorrow and the manufacturer's gonna say, see, I told you. So it's a balancing act, so, I just want you to keep that in mind that when we get into that discussion next month, there may be some question as to why things are prioritized where they are, and some of it is very accurate, some of it is more of an educated guess and trying to make our dollar stretch as far as we can.
Are you proposing we do East right now, Jake? Or is
Yes,
it?
yeah.
Okay.
So now we'll get into the projects that I brought. I just want to kind of discuss them tonight, and then we'll bring them back to the board for.
Jake, your 5-year plan, can you present that, get that to us as soon as possible? I mean, so we can have time to go over that,
Yes.
because it's an exhaustive list that you're gonna have.
Yep.
I mean, even before Mary Kay sends out all the board information.
Sure.
Can you
I
get that?
I can try to get that cleaned up in the next couple weeks and get that to you in
Okay.
plenty of advance.
Knowing that it could change,
Yeah.
you know.
Right. Yep.
Because it probably will.
It always does.
It's a fluid document.
Yeah. So I guess the first one that I want to talk about is the East asbestos abatement. That's basically all the classrooms floor tile. We did West Elementary last year, and, East is just the next step, and then next year I want to try and target the middle school. Again, just 2 weeks ago, we had to have an abatement company come in and do a small area in the 3-story, right at the bottom of the stairs, the highest traffic. Those pieces start popping up, so, and I'm anticipating that we're gonna have to stay ahead on that, at least the first floor of the middle school next year, but, so this year, the bids came back pretty good, actually. The low bid is $19,800, and then just as a side note, we're going to install all the tile that replaces it like we did last year. And that's gonna come in that $10,000 to $15,000 amount with all the flooring and base and stuff like that. So, but we'll self-perform that, so that's a good savings there. We don't have to pay for the labor on that. But, so what I'll be asking you for is approval to award the bid to Environmental Plant Services for the 19E.
Did we do North already?
North is pretty much done, yeah. Yep. Any questions on that?
What about the main hallways of like East? Is that done or is
They
that?
did those, I think that was under Joe Schrader that they did those.
They replaced those?
Yep.
Okay.
The next one on the list is, and not necessarily in any order, is the in-pocket tables. Those are here at the middle school, and if you remember last year, we added a couple and replaced a couple of the existing in preparation for the consolidation addition of kids.
Jake, excuse me, what is
Sorry.
an in-pocket table?
It's the lunch tables in the multi-purpose room, and they have metal, what they call pockets that are built into the concrete wall.
Oh, into the wall where the
Yep.
table folds into the
Just
wall?
like at the
Okay,
elementary school.
there you go.
Yep. So,
Now I know.
this is just a continuation of that. We have 3 old ones that are left. The price went up $215 this year. I think that's kind of standard inflation, but I would like to just go ahead and go with the same tables instead of having multiple pieces, possibly if we bid it out. We bid it out the last time, and I'd like to just stay with that. So I'd ask you to approve the purchase of 3 of the tables for a total of $21,645. Any questions with that or thoughts if prefer?
How long did the old ones last? a long time, whenever they did that.
Well, they were in 1998, so in the remodeling.
So, yeah, 23 years.
And they take a lot of
If you
wear.
think about it, they're put up, they put
A
down.
lot of wear, yeah.
Every day. Kids are not easy and stuff as we all know, so. Okay, next one is the Schofield Stadium sod. So if you remember, I brought you the whole project as a whole. The sod was not part of that original presentation. So that did the storm sewer drainage and the dirt work, the final grade, and replace the goalposts. This is in addition to it. There is some debate with Gridiron and ourselves and the point of beginning, the engineers that helped us design the project, if we were gonna go with the seeding process or sod. And we decided that we wanted to go with sod. This money is all coming out of the Gridiron fundraiser. So it's not our funds to expend, but it is something that I just wanted you to be aware of and ask for your approval of regardless. And the low bid on that was $19,065.
So is there a difference between the low bid and the high bid in terms of sod quality and something like that? It's like a different variety of grass or something, or thicker?
For the most part, the majority of it's all Kentucky bluegrass. There's many varieties of Kentucky bluegrass, but for maybe the packers, that might matter, from my understanding. For us, that's not necessarily a huge. This Black Creek Sod Company has provided sod to Lambeau Field in the past and has done a number of jobs up here. They're very familiar with our soil quality being very clay and loam. So I feel like it's a really good fit to begin with, and they were the low bid, so I was happy all around. Track resurfacing. So this one is, again, one of those that you look at the life expectancy, and back in 2010, Tim had put an overcoat spray on there, which is the typical procedure to extend the life of the track. And that really helps hold the little fine pieces of rubber to the base coat, which is adhered to the blacktop. And you can get away with doing that once, and it extends that life another, they say 8 years. We've got 10 years out of it. But once that breaks down, and once those little fine particles really start coming off that base layer, what happens is the adhesion between the base layer and the top of the asphalt, that starts letting go. And when that happens, water gets in, we all know what water does in trees. So to preserve that asphalt, you don't want that water ever to get there. We're not quite there yet, but the engineer that helped us design the track originally helped Tim do the respray, and now has helped us here, is highly recommending that. It should have been done a couple years ago per the life expectancy, but is very happy to see where it's at. But he said that I would push your luck anymore, because if that starts delaminating, not only does it damage the asphalt, but you're gonna have problems with the performance. You know, someone, if it happens during a meet, it could cause an injury, or it would just stop the track from being able to run on there for the season until we get it replaced. So, this year, as Tim kind of highlighted, stuff's a lot different budget-wise, and Schofield's not here, but with the changes with COVID and them not being able to travel and everything, he has a bit of a surplus right now. So he is going to hopefully be able to contribute a large portion of this through his extra funds. Now they're talking about with spring sports, they may be opening up a little bit more. He may have some travel, so that number's really not nailed down yet. But I think a safe number would definitely be that you can cover hopefully 50% of the cost, and cost would come into line.
I wouldn't call them extra funds, I'd refer to them more as unexpended.
Correct.
Just because this whole last year has just been, like Tim said earlier in the discussion, where things just aren't the same. You're not doing as much traveling, you're staying home and doing stuff, and you gotta take care of your home too.
Jake, how long has the track, when was the track put in, built?
2,000.
Yeah.
2000 it was, okay.
Yep, so Tim stretched, they recommend every 8 years roughly to do something. Tim stretched the first time
Wow.
2 extra years. We stretched 2 extra years, and like I said, Rick Ratner Corporation is who originally designed it. Helped Tim and I helped him, and he said that we have a very good base asphalt. And sometimes you get to this point and there's questions on the asphalt, and you have to do crack repair or some repaving or stuff like that. And he's not seeing any of that yet, so he's very happy with what he sees. And thinks if we do this now, before we risk any damage, we'll easily get another, hopefully 20 years out of it.
You guys think we should put grass on it instead? That'd be a lot cheaper.
Yes.
But so it's 140,000,
Well,
and
so-
Tom will take care of that?
Well, if you look, I included the $140,000 bid in there, but I put the 2 asterisks behind there. And if you look down below, it says that this company is unable to meet our scheduling requirements. So we obviously targeted after the end of the spring track season. This company said, well, that schedule doesn't work for us, but if you want to consider it, as soon as the ground is thawed into a proper temperature, we would be willing to do it for a discounted price. Well, that would cancel the spring track season, and I don't think we're interested in that at all. So, I'm actually recommending the 147 amount.
Jake, going around to other schools, when I used to travel to the other areas, we get a lot of great compliments from other parents and coaches about, specifically about our track. So kudos to everybody who is taking care of it from 2000 to now. It's a great track.
Good, thank you.
That's what I hear.
Yeah, and actually, I don't know a whole lot about track, but when they came and looked at this, and he started talking about the extra features that we have as far as, where our jump pits are, those types of things, that's not a standard, that's above and beyond.
It
So
is, yeah.
We do have a very nice facility there.
I've heard other comments about Schofield Stadium, but we're gonna fix that.
We're getting there. Okay, any other questions about the track? And then the last one is the high school choir room floor. And if you remember last year, we did the band room floor, and we did that with epoxy. And we were very positive that it was gonna work right, but sometimes you just don't know when you talk about acoustics until you get it in there and do it, have somebody who really knows this stuff come in and test it. So we had, they called Soundworks out of Stevens Point. Ben, the IT department, worked with them quite regular. Came up and met with our band teacher and our choir teacher, and went through the pros and the cons. And basically, the only thing that we may have shifted a little bit as far as the acoustical quality is the high range. And again, I know about this much about music, so don't hold me to it, but the high end seemed to have changed a little bit. And the easy solution for that is put a few sound panels in the ceiling. Again, they were very impressed, and I think why we didn't have any problems is those rooms were really built right when they did it. Everything from the perforated ceiling to the sound panels on the walls to the angles of the walls. So we're really happy with that. It's worked out great this year. And we don't see a problem with it in the choir room, so we want to do that again. This pricing is equivalent per square foot of what they did the band room floor for last year. And, Mid-North Epoxy is a local company, they do great, they're preferred throughout my B&G group. A lot of schools use them, they do great work, and I prefer to, being able to compare their pricing from previous jobs to this job. I feel comfortable that we have a very fair price there, and being local, I prefer not to bid it up. The next closest companies, there's one in Wausau that I don't have any experience with, but then you're down Green Bay, Appleton area, so, I'd ask for your approval of that, getting three prices, but if you prefer that, I can certainly bring back the other, get two more prices if you'd like.
Danny, could your expert ear hear the difference in the band room?
I actually have not been in the band room since the floor was changed, but my son loves the change in the band room. And he said he will love the change in the choir room. As well as all the other choir students.
Okay. Does anybody think he ought to be getting bids on this?
They did the other room, didn't they?
Correct.
Yeah.
They did the other room and they stand by it.
Yeah.
They did the garage floor at my dad's and there was a crack and they came right over and fixed it, no charge.
They do.
He does good work.
They did the Fab Lab for us, and Mac, I mean, they just do a phenomenal job, and they're, when we did the first floor, I got pricing for just the standard one, and they actually came to me and said, hey, there's this new clear coat that we can use that adds some definition. We want you to be the showpiece for that new type of clear coat, or that clear body, so it looks like there's actually depth between the chips. And they said, if you'll put it in, we'll honor the standard pricing for the premium type flooring, so, and they've held that price straight through for us, so I mean, they're just great people, and they really do good for us, so, very happy with them. Like I said, they're right here now.
The only thing I'm thinking, Jake, is what does our policy say and read? Because if our policy says that we have to get bids after so many dollars, we don't have to accept the lowest bid or highest bid or whatever. But if our policy says, if you spend more than X amount of dollars, you have to have X amount of bids, we need to live within our policy. As much as we like the company, we do need to live within what we set as policy. So,
Fair enough.
I'm sorry, I don't know what that policy reads.
I don't know.
Tim,
right
do you
off
know?
hand.
We'll check, but I think it does say.
Yeah, that's my belief.
Yeah.
That's what it meant.
But again, we can go with whoever we choose.
Right.
But it's too late for those bids because you already have this out in common knowledge.
Exactly.
Well, we can ignore our policies, right, when we want to, and guidelines.
Policy is policy, it is not law.
It's not a guide.
So, okay, so what am I hearing? Two more?
I say we
I
need to
think
follow
you
our
gotta-
policy, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll bring that back for you then. That's okay if I just bring those two?
Sure,
For the one?
sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, don't delay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's it?
That's all I had, unless anybody has any questions.
Signs.
Okay, we
Yeah,
will,
we had to drop every day they're out of the way. We're not gonna put that on there, it's just gonna be the east elementary, because we have to stack them, because we're putting another window in at east this summer. So that takes up some of that wall space.
Just the names of the
It's
buildings.
just gonna be east elementary.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay, we'll go on to item D, high school English classroom shelving.
Okay, so this is one that, is really more generated from ELA teaching staff with Clint and, Janet loves, anytime she can get into little projects like this, she loves to jump in and help, so. Basically, it's one wall in the classroom that is gonna have floor-to-ceiling shelving on it to help with their curriculum. Beyond that, I'm not sure what it means, but.
Yep, with,
in their curriculum in the ELA is trending towards more classroom libraries and immediate access to books, and we've invested a lot in our reading and writing workshop at the high school as far as training purposes and also materials. So we need a place to store those materials within the classroom to get them immediately in the hands of students when we need them.
Is this primarily 8th grade?
Nope,
No, it's all around.
this is 8-12. So the quote you see there is in a number of different classrooms, and all the ELA classrooms getting that shelving in there. And we do have some books to put in there right now. Some are on mobile carts, and some are being stored in various areas. But that way we can get them in there, and we're going to continuously add to it and build on those classroom libraries. We've got some money budgeted this year too to devote to those classroom libraries. Keeping up with the latest literature that young adults are interested in, teenagers, that really is, texts of high interest are really a key component of the reading writing workshop.
Okay, when we adopted the new reading series at the K-5 level or K-8 level, and these classrooms got tons of books. Pick up, read, not textbooks, but books to read. Do those classrooms have bookshelves for all those books, or are they keeping them in crates like we used to do?
So the elementary was purchased different. The elementary purchased different shelving. I don't know if you recall when we did some of those larger purchases for the desks and the chairs. There were different units that were bought for shelving as well.
So they've got places to keep all their books then?
Yeah, and some of the classrooms or specific buildings have sometimes asked their teachers what they wanted. Like some of them like them on carts, some of them like them on crates, some of them,
Okay.
it varies. But they have had other opportunities.
Okay,
too.
good.
So high school's just a little bit behind in the process of having more books in their classroom and access to those books right away for students.
Okay, thanks, Amy.
Okay. Any more questions on any of those quotes? So essentially you got 3 different quotes there.
Yeah, and one is the same company, but they have 2 different lines of product that, they came in relatively almost the same. But, the A-plus cafeteria is out of Hanoa. We use them a lot. Very happy with their work. And then Atmosphere Commercial Materials is a gal that moved in Annie over here and contacted us. If you recall her name. Sorry. So she had contacted us to see if we'd be willing to give her an opportunity next time, so we did. The other company that I did check with was Top Notch. They do not do they do more of the residential wood finishes. They don't do the laminate, and we wanted the laminate to match the other casework that's at the high school.
Okay. Okay. Unless there's anything else, we'll go on to item E. Staff laptop bids.
Just a discussionary time where you're not gonna need to vote on it until the full board meeting in a couple of weeks. So I just wanted to go over the bid, and if you had any questions from that camera recorder connecting point, work with those guys pretty closely for many things. So, if you got any questions about that laptop bid.
This is just the normal update, Mark?
Yes, just a rotation. We do every 4-year rotation.
Gotcha.
We average between 45 and 55 a year for that rotation. So.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move along to Fall Start College now, participants.
so you can see your list there. We'll bring this back to you for full approval, or approval, I should say, at the next board meeting. But just an FYI that these are the names who are enrolled for fall 2021.
So are these like juniors or sophomores?
Some of these are juniors.
I'd
I know
have
that.
to, right. Clint, are they all juniors?
I'm not positive I can do that. But you need to be a junior or senior to apply.
So
But
juniors.
You can't be a sophomore.
Younger, okay.
My guess would be
then they
since
would be
they're applying
juniors.
for 2021, they'd be juniors.
Maybe juniors,
Yeah,
right?
they're applying for the fall.
Good question.
Okay,
Okay.
I think that's a good deal that they get,
Mhm.
get going there. We'll go on to item G, presentation of the 2021-2022 CISA 9 agreement.
So this is standard from what you have seen in recent years. CISA 9 is really good about working with us. You'll see the benefits we get that there's no charge for. And then the prices are indicated for what we do pay for, obviously. There's one that we wrote in on line 37, and that's the DHH will need some program support help. Other than that, it's standard, and what the other thing we like about CISA 9 is if we need help in some areas we go forward, they're great about having these fluid budget lines and taking from and adding to and whatever it takes to really meet our needs, so. And again, we would bring this to you for approval in a couple weeks.
So we don't have reading on this, or at least literacy intervention support is $0.
Right, but like their title support and the PD they help us with, GD, it's either under, I would say, continuous school improvement or, yeah, it's built in. Amy, oh, she's not there, no.
Here I am.
Oh, there you are. Amy, I was
Right.
going to say anything like when Amy McGovern supports us, or Casey, especially with title, that's a separate.
That's a separate contract.
Contract, yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to the next item, the report of ACP and post-secondary data trends.
So before I turn it over to Amy, Clint, and Bree, thanks for coming, Bree. Just a reminder that we shared our continuous improvement goals with you last month, and we'll bring those back for full board approval this month. So this is a nice precursor to see, again, how academic and career planning fits into our work, and actually, like the title says, some post-secondary data to share as well.
What happened to the ACT today? The computers all died or something?
Mark is here. I'll have him answer that. Thanks, Mark.
The laptops were all good, or the Chromebooks that they were using. What happened is that, power between them not giving us all the information from the whitelisting of the websites that we needed to clear. So we didn't have their updated current whitelist, so therefore we were getting, most of it was getting black from our web filter. They did give us the updated list, but they seemed to miss one, and didn't get that to us until about 10 o'clock. So after we got that, it was up and running later this afternoon. We tested it several times, so it's ready for next Tuesday for sure. Today was the first day we could actually test any of it this morning, the way the testing sites were working, so. But it is working now.
Thank you.
All right, so I just want to thank Mark and Dustin and high school teachers and students today. They were very patient with ACT testing, and I feel confident that we'll be able to move forward next week. It was definitely a lot of problem solving, and the juniors were patient too, so thank you to them. Okay, so Clint, Bree, and I, we're going to talk a little bit about ACP, which is Academic Career Planning. Bree heads that up for our district, and she has a lot of good information to share with you. And then Clint will talk a little bit about some of our post-secondary information, meaning what our students are doing after they graduate. All right, go ahead, Bree.
So first I just want to introduce myself. I'm Bree Krutz. I'm one of the high school counselors. I also had the Academic and Career Planning Committee for our district. I apologize about my attire, but if I've learned anything, it's that ACT days are nuts, like Mark just described, so it's always a comfy day, and I've been full of meetings today as well, so I apologize, but I just want to share with you all of the amazing things that are happening in and outside of our district in regards to academic and career planning. So as you can see, our mission statement is all USDA graduates will become academically prepared and socially, emotionally competent by demonstrating content knowledge and career and life skills through their academic and career planning process. ACP is kind of our buzz acronym for academic and career planning. But just to raise awareness, we do try to say academic and career planning as much as possible because there's too many acronyms in education. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about the committee structure. So we meet as a high school team and as a middle school team, and then we come together for district-wide meetings as well. This year the high school team has been really, really active. A lot of the things that we've been trying to incorporate at lower levels just haven't been possible due to COVID, and I'll actually talk about that in a minute. And then we do have a plan, and this is posted on our website. And this just kind of gives a really brief overview for families. So if you are new to our district or you are wondering what does our district do to get our students academically and career ready, so it details 6th grade, 7th grade, all through 12th grade. Something that we're working on right now as a team is actually implementing and putting into our plan the things that we're doing in the elementary grades and lower middle school grades, because we do a lot of things that are pretty awesome, and we feel like we should be advertising those to the community and to our families as well. So that is one of our big rocks that we're trying to take care of this year, is just updating and just incorporating more information on there. So at the elementary school, our students are doing Zello. Zello is our career exploration software. Used to be Career Cruising many, many moons ago. It was Whisk Careers. It's just called Zello. Students have really fun and interactive lessons that they can do on Zello, and at the elementary levels, it's really more about job skills, like communication, collaboration, being on time, ending on time, completing tasks. They also sponsor a HATS Day, which is Hobbies and Talents Shared. They're hopefully going to implement this for spring of 2022. As I said before, darn COVID. But they team really well with our CHAMPS organization to make some of these things happen with the funding that they might need, outside resources that they might need. And then they're also hoping to really have some of those community professionals come in and share their trades, share their careers, share what they're doing for some of these younger students. At the middle school, students are exploring various career opportunities. They start developing that academic and career plan, which we really kind of fine-tune at the high school level. All of our students, grade 4 through 7, are also doing career exploration activities, learning style inventories. They're working on journaling all of their extracurricular activities. All of this is happening starting in the middle school level. Grade 6 and 7, in their social and emotional learning curriculum that they get through the school counselors, they're filling out job applications. They're exploring careers in different career clusters, and they played this game called Career Survivor. And Kelly Derline told me that this was like the hottest game that she's ever played with her team. But it was like weeding out what jobs they want, and she said it was really interesting to see all of these students that, like, of course they all want to be doctors and lawyers because they make so much money, but then at the end those careers kind of got weeded out in this Career Survivor. And not all of them, but they realized that it's not all about the money, it's about your passions and interests and career matches as well. So she said that one was pretty interesting. At the high school level, our career exploration is really infused into our English language arts curriculum. They have a career unit in every single one of our grades. So freshman year, they really go hard in that Zello curriculum, and they look at 3 different jobs, talk about their learning styles, they give career speeches. Junior year, they have a career paper that's broken up into 5 different parts where they're going on job shadows. One thing we've implemented into that career paper this year is also the potential for an interview, because job shadows and campus visits have been much trickier to come by these days. So working on really brushing up all of their career skills that they could brush up on before they get out of high school. One thing that's come out of COVID, I know it's all bad, but there's one good thing that has come out of COVID. We've completely revamped our school counseling website, and one thing that I've been working really hard at is putting virtual career fair resources on our website. So I have different businesses, community organizations, some of them are transition services for our students and families. They've all sent me these resources, and I've linked them directly onto our website. And so I actually have a couple more, like Anago Parks and Rec sent me one the other day about what jobs they hire for, what career opportunities they have. And my goal is to really just keep building that for not only during a COVID year, but for every year. So that'll be a nice vault of resources for us to have in the coming years. And what I like the most about it is that it's not always just our students who are looking for career opportunities and jobs. So families and community members can also visit this page, see what career opportunities are available. One of my huge goals is to put a contact person underneath each one of those businesses and transition services that are provided, so that people can contact them if they're interested. So I'm working on that. And then we also sponsor a yearly career fair. It has proven to be very, very difficult this year. However, we did send out a survey, and from that survey, we have 28 community partners and businesses right now who are willing to come to even a socially distanced outside at the track career fair. And the sample of those businesses is pretty amazing. We have finance, we have, I have Mosquito Squad. You should have seen me asking the counselors, like, what career cluster does that fit in today? Like, is it business, is it natural resources? So it's really an awesome sampling of our community that's really just wanting to come out, support our students, grow their businesses, grow our community while they're, helping out the school and creating that partnership. So that's what's going on level-wise.
And then I just want to interject too, one thing. We are making a video and resources for our school district too. So that's in process as well. Ben Wilhelm will help interview some of our staff members about careers that we offer as a district. So not just teachers, but librarians, custodians, electricians, IT people. So we're putting together our own video and resources as well, inspired by this work that Bree has been doing. So now Clint will kind of talk a little bit more about some of our community partnerships. You have a handout today that's a 2-sider, half-page narrow, burgundy and white sheet of paper, yes, Jim and Wayne are holding, that will highlight some of that information there.
Before we jump into that, we didn't get to do this at any of our staff meetings because they're virtually and it doesn't work very well. So I want to give Bree a power clap. I know she's coming back on, but I just want to give her a power clap on 3. So when I say 1, 2, 3, then we'll clap after 3, all right? 1, 2, 3. Oh,
good
first
job.
stop. Nice job. And to answer the question from before, there were 4 juniors and 4 seniors that are applying for that Start College Now for next year. There'll be 4 juniors, 4 seniors next year.
Okay, thank
Yep.
you.
So, highlighting our partners, and I think this is super, super valuable. Starting off with NTC, and we're going to get into some of those specifics around dual credit, youth apprenticeship, move to manufacturing, and the cadet program. But right now I'm going to kind of really throw props out to NTC, and I know we're going to touch on this move to manufacturing a little bit later in the presentation, but I just wanted to show you what kind of resources we get from NTC. This is the paper version of the move to manufacturing curriculum, and we also get a Canvas, because NTC uses Canvas too, and then we can copy their Canvas right over with all of their dual credit courses and stuff, and then their instructors help our instructors in navigating that and answering questions, and they're super, super supportive. So we are extremely privileged to have them here as a partner. So I'm gonna pass that around, and it's got the little tabs there by the units. There's blueprint reading and communication strategies and different things that the students go over in that move to manufacturing. But just to highlight a couple different pieces in here, with these dual credit courses, you know, a savings of $153,000 for students taking over 1,600 credits, and that is just a huge benefit to our students that we're able to offer through those dual credit courses. And if you look on NTC's website, you can see they have this annual report that they give out, and we are very well represented on that annual report this year as well as in years past because of that partnership we have with NTC. And also youth apprenticeship, I want to throw out a little challenge to you at the end of our slide presentation, so stay tuned for that, regarding youth apprenticeship and some of the partnerships we have there. But what youth apprenticeship is, it's that you can do it for 1 or 2 years, and you really network with a community business and get some on-the-job training. A lot of those youth apprenticeships develop into employment either during the summer or full-time afterwards. I can say, I know one of our students that went in youth apprenticeship is still working at Waukesha Bearings, at least one, but just one that I sat in on, and he's doing some excellent machine tooling work over there. And then we're going to highlight another one at the end here. So this Move to Manufacturing Academy, 7 of our students participated in that. That's the book that I'm passing around. And in that program, they also get a guaranteed interview with some sponsoring businesses in that Move to Manufacturing. So that's another added benefit to give our students some visibility with area businesses. And also Start College Now, that is what you approved tonight. And that Start College Now gives students a chance to take some classes that are not offered. We don't have similar classes like that here. That CNA course is a popular one. The other one that's partnered with Start College Now is the Early College Credit Program. So Start College Now is technical college stuff, Early College Credit, UW system. Those are the differences in that. So this is where my challenge comes out to you. I want to challenge you to either snap a picture of this and post it, tweet it, snap it, whatever that is you're into social media wise, and really just throw a bone out to these awesome businesses that partner with us and take our students and give them that experience, and work with Joni Fisher as one of our instructors that really does an awesome job in communicating with these businesses and doing a lot of networking with them and making sure that students are meeting the expectations of their businesses and working through those challenges when we need to. Or either snap a picture of that slide or go on our website that Bree pointed out and snap a picture of some of those, or both. And like I said, tweet them, snap them, share them out somehow. So that Antigo Auto Parts, I want to highlight them too, because they're another area of business that not just are they youth apprenticeships, but they're our local supplier for our auto, Red Robin, I can't remember what it's called now. Our autos program at the high school that does a lot of services, and they're always purchasing auto parts and working on different vehicles, but they give us a healthy discount, a better discount than if we were a shop in town. So they're extremely helpful. Right now we've got a former student working full-time at Antigo Autos, as well as taking classes for collision at NTC, which they're supporting that student or former student in their continuing education as well. So it's just a network of support around some of those students, which is why I'm just encouraging you to do that snap, tweet, or share. So, questions on that part of the presentation? Oh, one thing I forgot to mention is that cadets program. That is a new program working with the local fire department. And what that consists of is a student would go to the fire department to train 2 times a month. They could obtain their Fire 1 and EMT basic certifications. I'm not sure what those are, but they're can lead to further education, and also full-time employment is a possibility too with the Antigo Fire Department. So students also can work their way into a ride-along status and maybe helping out at scenes. Those are some notes that we got when we met with the fire department.
So that kind of highlighted a lot of the prep we do here at the school, but then what happens after they graduate? Do they follow through with some of those plans or not? So Bree will talk a little bit about some graphs we have to just show you what we anticipated or students were saying, and then did they actually follow through or not? And then a couple trends comparing us to the state.
Okay, so this is the nitty-gritty data. Are you ready?
Is this the thing we bought last year, or was that 2 years ago?
So, great question, and actually every time I talk about this program, I'm like, JD really liked this, and we should probably talk about this because JD really liked it. So, the program that I'm going to show you some graphs from is called the National Student Clearinghouse. Our district received a subscription to that for 2 years due to the Tech Steps grant that Kelly Levesque and myself applied for. That grant has now expired, so I think I can still obtain all the reports, but it expired the day we were making this presentation. I was like, I better pull those really fast because they're really helpful. So when we surveyed our 2020 graduates, this was legitimately at the very beginning stages of COVID, and so we only received 108 responses from those students. The class was about 175 students, so sample probably not the best, but I wanted to provide you with something from our 2020 graduates. So 63.9% said that they would be attending a 4-year college or university. 23.1% said that they're going to be attending a technical 2-year college or university. And then you'll also see, we had 6.5% say they were going to the workforce. 1% said that they were going to job training. Now those I could attribute to like a Myron work apprenticeship, electrical apprenticeship, those types of job trainings. And then about 1% going to the military. That 4.6% of a gap year, that just means they don't know what they want to do, and so they're taking a year to decide that. Us as counselors really struggle with gap years, but we understand they're for some people. And so these graphs, sorry, that's okay. So this graph is one of those graphs that I pulled from the National Student Clearinghouse, and this is a longitudinal graph. And so this has, the maroon line is our students who actually enrolled, their bottom was in a seat in college in the fall, at any college. I always want to preface this doesn't count like cosmetology schools, like if you have an Aveda Institute student who's attending, they don't participate in the National Student Clearinghouse. So these would be schools that are participating in this clearinghouse and giving them their data. But you'll see that we're like approximately like a 56.5% trend line from 2012 to 2019. And then it also breaks it up into 4-year institutions and 2-year institutions, which, the 26% that said that they were going to go to a 2-year technical school, that's pretty accurate with what we're seeing. We are seeing less on the 4-year schools from what they had said that they were going to go. But the technical school is pretty consistent, and then we have about 56% of our students overall averaged out through the years that are attending some sort of post-secondary institution that submits their data to the National Student Clearinghouse. And then this is kind of like just the numbers of the graph that I just showed you percentage-wise. So it tells you the number in the class and then the total number that are enrolled. This one even breaks it down into in-state and out-of-state. So it just breaks it down a little bit more for you, even in public and private schools. And I just think that some of those things are pretty interesting to see as we're looking at this data. This one I think is like so eye-opening. So I literally took a snip of just the top 10. There's like 100 different schools listed on this report, but I just wanted to show you just a snapshot of the top 10. And you can see the vast majority of our students at some point post-high school enrolled at NTC. And so, you know, Andy, we've had this conversation before. We've definitely spoken, but it shows you our top 10 schools that students are applying to at some point post-secondary. And again, there's just like a laundry list. And this data includes, for the grant purposes, I had to submit so many years prior of data. So I started with the 2012 class and I've submitted every year since then. So even our 2020 graduates, I will get a data plot and like a graph from them. It's just not available yet. So those numbers, they look really little because there's 100 different schools on this list, and these are just our top 10. But for the top 10, this is our number of students from the 2012 class and beyond who have enrolled in those universities at some point.
All right, so you can see that they really are following through in some degree with their ECP planning, that even with COVID, our return on our planning was actually quite good. So now how does that information kind of compare to the state of Wisconsin and the averages that we see across the state? So Clint will talk a little bit about that.
So this data is pretty encouraging as well. You can say this is our most recent data that we have on there for 18-19. And when you look at our percentage compared to the state, this is the continuing of education if they're within 6 months of graduating high school. So in 18-19, we're at 56%, the state's at 57%. When you go back a year, 63 to 58, so we topped the state that year. And when we go back to 16-17, we were below them at 43% to 52. But a little more data up here with about consecutive enrollment, non-consecutive enrollment. That's if they went right after high school or if they didn't. With the state, we're 48 to 49%. The state's at 49. Our not consecutive enrollment, which is 17% to the state's 15, and not known to be enrolled, we're at 31% to the state's 35%. Where there, it's good to be below the state. So just a couple trends there that are, we're teetering and sometimes above the state in certain areas. We want to get above the state and put some distance there in a lot of those areas, except for the not known to be enrolled categories. So encouraging there.
All right, so that concludes our brief update tonight for you on our planning process and also some of our post-secondary information. Really, this was brought about just because there's so much going on with the career fair. We thought it was important to kind of highlight that, and also in talking with NTC, that end of the year report, that flyer that you have was based off of data in that end of the year report. We just wanted to highlight some of our pieces to kind of advertise a little bit more with our students, hopefully entice them to take up some of those opportunities. So, any further questions or comments, thoughts?
I just got a question for Bree. I don't know how long it's been, a couple years maybe, that you started doing this thing in the summer where you're following through with graduates to see if they are actually making it?
So that's the Tech Steps program. And so we did that for 2 summers, and the grant has expired at this point. That's the grant that I was just saying expired on March 1st. But from that, we had some pretty awesome data that the grant coordinator shared with me. Of the students who participated, 80% of those students persisted and went on to school, which is pretty awesome. But I will share that. I'll share it with Mary Kay to share with you guys just the data from that grant.
Thank you.
And this grant's expired and we just let it drop. It's expired. The whole thing?
That,
I mean, I will.
part of it, yes.
I can speak a little bit on that, Andy. The grant was kind of expensive. It was about a $50,000 grant for 2 years to pay the counselors to have this communication with the students, pay for all the softwares. So we would love to continue it. I'm unsure where the funding would come from, so. But it was a hefty, we received a hefty grant
Yeah.
because there were hefty costs that were associated.
So we started talking about like, what do we do, because we found it very valuable, especially for something like this, but also it supports our planning and our data tracking for what we want to achieve with our ACP goal setting, and as a district, how we continue to move that forward. So we do get a lot of really good data from the state. It's not necessarily always as timely or intense in detail about what our students are specifically doing, but it does offer us other ways. So Bree and I last time briefly talked about like, you know, what are the differences that we could, what are we missing maybe that we're not getting from the state that we see in this program, and how do we obtain that? I think Clint was joining us in that last conversation too. So we definitely want to continue to obtain a lot of this data, just looking at where our kids are going and are we following through with our planning process. But it is a large cost.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, what's the, excuse me, the new customer service course coming in spring of 2021?
So the customer service course is actually partnering with some of our students who are in special education to provide them opportunities to go out into the community, and it's actually classes they would take at NTC and then practice their skills out in the community in classes that they would take, and we're scheduled to start this spring.
Being a veteran of that for 33 years, I think it's a good idea.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Ellen.
Thank you.
Plant and brief.
Okay, we'll go on to possible action items, and the first one is a consideration to approve purchase of district van.
I move the board approve the quote for our $36,685 from Langley Ford for the purchase of a district van.
Second.
Okay. We had quite a discussion on this, but questions or discussion?
Now it's only a van, it's not the ADA van.
Right.
Correct.
However, the purpose of buying this van was to transport students.
Right.
Correct?
Yes.
I'm glad that Tim Grosskirth is here from Maliette, who we have our contract with. And I'd like for Tim just to speak about what the services that he can provide in that in-between time through his company.
Okay, the key word is in between time though. You know, it's not feasible for us to transport. We are a profit company. So I'm not sure what the criteria is. I haven't been appraised of what the requirements are, what the van's gonna be used for. But we do have access from the 8 to 3 type of time scenario. And also post, you know, after 4-ish, there's available vehicles and such. But if it's a taxi cab type service that has specific dead times, and it's random, that's almost impossible to accomplish. So, you know, that's basically it. The only way it really works is if it's planned ahead. It can't be something that is last minute. You know, you try to accommodate, but it's just not always feasible. So I mean, it's not saying there isn't a use for the district to have a van. It's not gonna really impact our income at all that much. You know, because I think it is gonna be random, it's small scale, part-time, whatever. But there is a service available between that 8 and 3 pretty comfortably.
Tim, how far in advance would you have to have that scheduled out?
I would say just to be safe, 24 hours is a rule. We still have to line up a driver. There is not, like in old TV shows where there's somebody just waiting for a phone call. That doesn't exist. So you gotta line it up, you know, the people do have a life when they're not driving, so. I mean, it'd have to be lined up, make sure vehicle's prepped and ready to go. So if it is something very short notice, that is hard to accommodate. It can be done once in a while, but not as a rule, it's pretty tough.
So Heidi, what would be considered random? I mean, if I understand this right, transporting kids to these work sites and different things like this, correct? So I guess I don't understand why it would be random. I mean, do they know how long, like if one of the kids works at Goodwill, how far ahead of time do they know that they've got a shift at Goodwill?
So we do plan, there's a lot of things that are already planned, like we have kids that go to Goodwill, that we use for our,
You know what, I can't hear you. I can't hear you when I'm wearing a mask.
That's the part covering your ear.
Oh, God, this is terrible. Okay, good, thank you.
So, we do a lot of scheduled things already. And generally, as he said, they've been very accommodating. Most of the time, we try to do 2 days. That's what Angela asks us to do, which is reasonable, for sure. And we use Mallettes for all kinds of transportation and will continue to do. This provides us with flexibility, not just the randomness, but the ability to go in multiple places and be able to pick kids up if they are needed to be picked up at different times and to be able to support different job sites at any given time. So it's not just about, oh, I have a job and I'm gonna go run to the job. It is having flexibility for the students that have disabilities to be able to accommodate their needs as well. And so whether it could be a job prior to 8, after 3, you know, it's just providing us another opportunity to have flexibility so that we can offer more accessibility to our students in the community.
Okay, so who would be transporting these kids?
Well, Michelle Arlen is kind of the head of
Michelle's your
our
person.
coordinating that, but we also have an IA that is supporting, and we want to grow that program. So it could be instructional assistants who are doing job support that might be transporting those students as well. And I've worked with Rhinelander to get all of their process and procedures to be able to use, because they've been using vans in this way for a long time, or Suburbans or whatever. And so utilizing theirs and how they sign it in, sign it out, we have to do background checks and all of that before people can drive it, just like any district employee would drive one currently.
So Heidi, when these students go to a job site, they don't necessarily all go to the same job site, I assume?
That's what we're hoping, that's the point. We don't want them just to have to go to one place. Right now, they go to one place. Goodwill right now is our main site. Even transporting within the district to offer district job sites as well when they can.
And does a staff person get on the bus and go with them to the site, or?
Right now, yeah. Our Goodwill site, because she, I'm not sure if she rides or not. Heather Roberts is the one who, or Michelle, I think they drive separately, but maybe Heather rides the bus with the kids, I'm not sure.
And if they drive separately, do we pay them mileage, Tim?
Well, we would be paying the mileage. We pay the mileage for Michelle if she turns it in, which she never does.
Yeah, anytime an employee uses a vehicle, mileage is paid.
Yeah, so that's budgeted in my budget.
But, so if there's students at 2 different job sites, they want to be able to go between the 2 job sites?
Potentially.
That person, and they would use the van to
They
do
could,
that?
yep.
But it hasn't happened, you just keep saying potentially, that means that, has this ever happened? Or
Yes,
are we
yes,
just-
it has happened. When
Okay.
Steve Kirsch was here with Tim with Malliette, I know Andy, the bus driver, was all over town all day, every day, transporting students to various different work programs. You would see Andy in bus number 10, I believe it is, at all the different job sites throughout the entire day, every day. So it has happened in the past that Malliette's has provided this service where they have done these job transfers at multiple sites, not just one. Am I right, Tim?
Yes.
It's not, I mean, that is true, but it's not as flexible as what we're talking about. And that was one group of kids generally. They didn't spread all the kids out all the time. Sometimes they would just take them, they might go out to PV House, they might go to one job site, they might go to, what is it, Neon, Anago Neon, you know, different jobs that they had. So
But
It
was
just
it
depends.
just the limitation in the transportation that we decided to send them to one side? That's what I'm trying to get at.
I didn't hear the question.
Were those children being sent to only one job site because of the transportation issues?
You mean, is it limited because
Yeah.
of transportation?
Yeah.
I don't think so. You know, I think it's flexible, they can go as much as they want. They haven't really expanded outside of the Annival community, so I mean, everybody's within 8-10 minutes of a distance, you know, kind of thing.
And part of that program, when Steve left, was trying to offer our students not only opportunities within the community at different times, but also within our schools, so that they didn't, their community-based was always in the afternoon. It was always from 1 to 2:15, and they had to be back because of, obviously, they have to transport and use that bus to transport kids. And so we have really tried to open up the opportunities for our students, so it's driven by their abilities and their needs and their wants to be able to expand their opportunities. So we want to just have another opportunity to be able to offer them that, so they're not limited.
And I do think it's important to remember that this is a grant that
Yeah.
you did the work for, the legwork applied, and were awarded. So it's not coming out of fund balance, you know.
But all the maintenance and the insurance and the upkeep and all of that will be coming out of fund balance. Tim, Prunty, I'm sorry, we got two Tims here tonight. Tim, so if a department in the school uses Maliet Transportation, does that department pay for the transportation for that particular project? And if so, if various departments are using this proposed van, are those various departments going to be paying for the use of this van like they would pay Maliet for transportation? Or is this van a way that departments no longer have to pay for Tim's transportation, but the school district then is going to cover the transportation for that particular department? I don't know if I made sense. That's probably as clear as mud.
There's no, there's,
So I
Jim?
think, Danny, sort of what you're asking, the simple answer is yes. So, you know, we really, when you think about how we operate, we have one bucket of money. And that bucket of money is the general fund. And then money from the general fund is transferred to special education. And it's supplemented with IDEA and categorical state aid. If, for example, we can use the Partners Program. Right now, the Partners Program, we gotta get those kids to school. And whether they're being in school for the high school or the Partners Program, that's transportation costs. And we do allocate that expense just from an accounting standpoint to the Partners Program, and we charge them for that service. If a principal schedules a field trip, they pay for that service. In the case of something like the van, there would be, typically we will have liability and collision insurance for that vehicle. They're gonna add that to the whole district policy. So there are items that would be covered under the district umbrella, because it's a district function and it's just one more additional piece.
I just want to be really clear, like, even though through this grant, which we do have flexibility, it does not have to be used for special education because it's not federal money, it's state money. So we do have flexibility. If you wanted to go to CISA on a Saturday, you could use this if you wanted to. We're not looking to say, oh, here's a free-for-all, because we want to maintain the van as long as we can. And so it's not like we just want people driving it all over, but I mean, it's, the intention is for transition. If somebody needed to use it, they could, it would be legal, but we're not looking to say, okay, band, okay, tennis, take the van. We want this to last for our purpose. So it's not intended to take business away by any means.
My concern is eventually what's going to happen, what I see, this is my seeing down the road, what's going to happen is our golf team is so small, right now they use Suburbans, that it's going to be that, oh, the golf team can just use the school van so we don't have to pay Tim and Maliet, or the tennis team, 2 or 3 people who ever go, again, I just don't think that this is the best interest for the school district. Great for the grant, kudos for the grant, and like Dr. Deep pointed out in our last meeting, it's not a reoccurring, it's a one-time thing. So we're gonna bear the cost of all the maintenance, all the upkeep. Tires are not cheap anymore. Nothing's cheap about a vehicle, as we all know, because we have vehicles. And why are we trying to duplicate a service within the district whenever we already have a reputable transportation company that just said he is willing to make anything happen throughout the day with a 24-hour notice?
He made it clear that, I mean, he was being honest when he said that the randomness or the ability to be able to go pick up a kid if they're having a hard time, they don't have that ability. That's what this is. And so
But
it's
he
not
also
anything
said that
against-
years ago, whenever Andy was running this program, you had this bus out all day long with all these students going everywhere all day, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
And they have returned back. If there was a problem at one of the sites, you know, they are radio dispatch, they go back. That van was dedicated to that group for that whole time period they needed it.
Right.
You know, it wasn't a drop and don't come back thing. You know, it was-
So,
Outside of the drop off and pickup times. Because, yeah, your fleet had to be at the schools. My professional thought is that for inclusion purposes, we have to do better for our students with special needs, and this would allow us that opportunity to grow the program. And
But Julie, we have done good with this program with Tim over the 12 years that I've been part of this district through his program, through his transportation company. Because he has had that part of the transportation the whole time that I've lived here.
I have been here 5 years, and I started trying to get this grant in our second year. And that is because I have been trying to grow and have flexibility within, because I came from districts where I had that type of flexibility. And it's nothing against, obviously, we still use Tim for those scheduled things that we have, that we will continue to have. And we finally got it because there is a lack and there is a need for this and what we need it for. And that's what should drive it, is our need and the ability to do what we need to do. But it's not. I'm just respectfully disagreeing.
So we could sell this vehicle if we didn't want it, right? Or no? We have to give the grant back, or does that restrict us? We changed our mind in 2 years?
I don't understand why we would change our mind.
I'm just, theoretically, we could sell it, get the money back?
well, yeah, we would own it.
Okay.
Tim Prunty, like, how much money do we spend for this on a yearly basis or a daily basis, or?
Well, you know, that varies by year, but I think this year we've budgeted, and Andy, I don't understand the use, I'm looking at invoices. So invoices for special ed, community services under 20,000. It varies from 1 year from 25,000 to 30,000. That's what we spent a year. How the detail of that transportation, what's going on, I don't know what that is.
Community-based is a portion of the community-based education that's outside, not just for, plus our Adaptive Fayette, transporting them to where they need to go as well, are two big pieces that come out of the funding to pay for that. Extra busing for when we have students who might have to go to an alternative site, we pay for that, or so based on student needs and disabilities, if they go to Visions down at Honey Home or Journeys or whatever that might be, if that's the case. So it's a variety of different types of transportation that comes out of that money that I budget. And that's outside of our regular transportation for students with special needs that can't, due to their disability, ride a regular bus, and that's a separate fund.
Do you have any idea potentially how much this could save the district over the course of a year? Is there any way to predict that?
Well, I was doing some math as far as, how many miles a day. It's gonna increase over time, but this van, what we're purchasing is around 30-some thousand. We were awarded, we have different funds that are 25,000 plus we have post-secondary funds that we get each year by having our students answer questions. So we get about $13,000 to $15,000 extra each year from the state as well, for doing that. And so one-time purchase, saving that 30,000 each year, we could potentially save, 15,000, I guess. I mean, that's just ballpark.
Andy, to me, the discussion here, we're possibly losing sight of one thing. This is a supplemental vehicle to the district. It's not going to be replacing this, in my opinion. To me, this is supplementing what we already have, adding some flexibility. It's also adding some flexibility, I think, to staff and in general, so that it puts a district-owned vehicle available if necessary to, like the question was, you want to load up a group of people and take them to a CSNI meeting, or if we have a district event or something with WASB and we want the whole board to get there, can all pile into one vehicle and go. To me, this is just supplementing what we already have in existence. It's not, in my mind, it's not hurting the existing business we already have. So to me, this does make sense.
The added flexibility alone, like you were saying, to me, that's a worthwhile investment. Gives us more.
Tim, when your buses aren't moving, are you making money?
Not a penny.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, he said though it wouldn't hurt his bottom line, this particular,
It's a small, very small percentage of our income. Our main
Who it's really
income
going
is
to benefit is
student transportation.
Who it's really going to benefit is the driver, because they're going to get paid a little more for driving that bus.
Well, yeah, somebody like our Andy will be
Yeah.
very disappointed, of course.
Yeah.
That's supplemental income on that. And
Okay, any further?
Okay. Do any students with that are wheelchair bound, would there ever be, do they get transported? Do those kids go to jobs?
we would contract with
Then you would
Valiance.
contract with them?
Yeah.
Okay, so originally, weren't we talking about having a lift in there?
I was
But then
hoping.
it would be fewer people that could be in the van. Okay,
Right, that's why.
Okay.
That was my hope,
yeah, okay.
but.
Okay. Anything else from anybody? And we'll go ahead and vote. We got a motion and a second. And we'll do a roll call.
Balzer,
Yes.
Boldig,
Yes.
Deep,
Yes.
Gagnon,
Yes.
Long. Jeannie, are you with us?
Well, Paul said she was here.
Neufeld,
Yes.
Hyatt,
No.
Schrader,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes. Okay, we will move on to the next item. Item B, consideration to approve revised superintendent evaluation template.
I move the board approve the revised superintendent evaluation template as presented.
Second.
So, like number 21. How do you use this thing?
Oh, so what we had decided was to infuse some of Whitefish's, that sounds funny, Whitefish
Whitefish
Bay's
Bay's.
language into the current evaluation template. So I did that. You can see it is in blue. Basically, what made Whitefish Bay look so different is it didn't have the numeric scale. It was more of, these are the things that you should be considering when talking about my job performance. So there ended up being 5 questions that I tweaked with that language. But JD, to answer your question, there does remain some dissatisfaction about questions like where you would really be evaluating Mary Kay or Tim or Jake for their responsibilities. So when it's time, we can talk about that again. However, we all agree that the buck stops with me and I'm ultimately responsible.
Okay, I just
Um,
thought prepares the content of each course of study in the school
In your
district
free
curriculum.
Right.
That sounded a little rough on you.
Right, and I would
In
be
her free
looking for
time.
Amy to support there, yeah, so. So those were the changes that I made, and when it's time, they won't be in blue, you'll just have the questions and we'll go through the process.
Okay, any other questions? Comments?
Where'd we get the base for this one from? Forgot.
Oh, this is the third year we'd be.
This is different, isn't it? Not the one we did last year.
No, it's the same.
No,
It's the same one.
Oh.
We've eliminated some questions.
Oh, it just
Yeah.
looks different to me right now? Okay.
Well, there's,
Bad
yeah.
memory. Because we had the three.
We added the lines because we
Yeah.
wanted to have evidence,
Yeah.
or comments.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it passes. We'll move on to item C, consideration to approve Neboken School Forest Building Cabinet quotes.
I move the board approve the quote of $18,525.02 from Wilhelm Lumber for the Neboken School Forest Building Cabinets.
Seconded.
Andy, we're bringing this forward because this is an item that we cut out of the original contract. And so it wasn't inclusive, and we just thought for transparency's sake, we wanted the board to know that this is an additional purchase to complete the project.
Complete being a strong word.
I'll let you get the judge of that.
Okay. Any questions or comments about this? Then we'd go ahead with a roll call vote.
Bolduc,
Yes.
Deep,
Yes.
Gagnon,
Yes.
Long, Newfeld,
Yes.
Hyatt,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Balzer,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes. And then we'll go on to item 5, closed session.
Hey, before we do that, can we thank our student rep for being here tonight? Because I
Yes.
think this is the first time that that we've had a student rep at the Cal meeting.
No, it is
No,
not.
she's
No,
done.
it's happened in the past.
She
Oh,
was
good.
here a couple months ago.
So good.
And I think Noel was too.
Yeah, she couldn't make it.
So
She was
thank
out
you,
of
Bailey, for
Are,
being here.
are you
and
into
enduring
Princeton
this.
now officially?
town. I am, yes.
That is pretty cool.
That's
Nice.
great.
What are you going to go to school for?
I'm going to be pre-law as of right now.
Mike?
It's a long way to come home for a meal and laundry. Congratulations.
Yep, gotta go. Good job.
Okay, now, we'll look for that motion in the next meeting. Consideration of a motion to adjourn into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.85G, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved.
So moved.
Second.
And we'll do a roll call.
Deep,
Yes.
Gagnon,
Yes.
Newfeld,
Yes.
Hyatt,
No.
Schrader,
Yes.
Balzer,
Yes.
Bolduc,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.